Welcome classic rock fans to another 10 of the best, and today we're looking at that dazzling jewel from the British pop charts, that is Elton John. These are my 10 favourites, so to speak. If you're new to this channel, please do click like, subscribe and check that bell, and check some of the links below this video for ways you can support the sterling work done here at the Classic Album Review. So without further ado, this is my 10 best of list, starting at the bottom. Number 10 is Believe from 1995. This is the first single from the wonderful Made in England album. Many hailed this record as a real return to form. It's hard to argue with that. I think it's a great album. This got to number 1 in the USA, making it his 15th there, if I'm not mistaken, and with its enigmatic black and white video adding to the mystique of the number. It was described in Music Week as fat, pompous and brooding, but it's a majestic number. It's set apart from a lot of that frothy pop that Elton regaled us with throughout the 80s and 90s. It's a somber piece punctuated by that crisp snap of the snare drum, which sounds like a trap being sprung, as Elton affirms rather desperately that his belief that love is all we got, which he sings with a dour frown, face like a slapped arse, I think my mother would say, all sombre and suited up from his platform. Interestingly, a review from People magazine described it as a power ballad that hints at John Lennon during his pop-obsessed double fantasy era. Not sure I agree with that, but I will say this is a wonderful track nonetheless. Number 9 is Hey Ahab from 2010. This is from the wonderful Union album he made with Leon Russell, an album that features guest appearances by Booker T. Jones, Brian Wilson and Neil Young, believe it or not. This song very cleverly alludes to Herman Melville's Captain Ahab in Moby Dick, the captain of the Pequod, of course. Perhaps it's an allegory in some way, suggesting the constant struggles and the hardships and the need to endure. I'm not so sure, really. I don't really see Ahab as somehow a symbol of an irrepressible drive to succeed. Having read the book, I see him more as someone who is dangerously and maniacally obsessed with something. And he piled upon the whale's white hump all his rage. If his chest had been a cannon, he would have shot his heart upon it. Lovely piano work through this, and the choral accompaniment gives it an epic scale, a bit like the book itself. It also alludes to Jonah, of course, a chap who also had a tussle with a whale. Actually a big fish for you biblical sticklers out there. But anyway, Hey Ahab has his boogie-woogie tribute to Melville's tormented captain. It's a wonderful and intriguing number. Number 8 is The Ballad of the Boy in the Red Shoes from 2002. Deep, resonant piano accompanied by Elton's rich baritone voice. It sounds mature, but it still sounds absolutely fabulous on this one. It's poignant and imbued with pathos. This beautiful song is about reminiscing of former glories. It's about a man looking back on his early life and deriving some joy from memories of himself dancing. Elton has said in concert that this is a song about somebody in the last stages of AIDS. The poignant line, of course, "Gonna miss the sunlight when I lose my eyesight," is quite striking. And the strings are exquisitely atmospheric in this one. It even employs what sounds like, I don't know if it is, a dulcimer, giving a bright and airy feel to this music, representing the memory of the boy dancing. This is an absolutely fabulous song from the wonderful album Songs from the West Coast. If you haven't heard this album, I really recommend you do so. It stands up there with some of his best 70s work, in my opinion. Number 7 is, I guess that's why they call it the Blues, from 1982. This is a haunting and beautiful number, of course, made even more so by the wonderful harmonica played by Stevie Wonder. This is, of course, from Elton's Too Low for Zero album, which is not great in my opinion personally. A lot of his 80s period for me was very, very hit and miss, but this is a sublime number. In fact, Bill Janovitz has said that this song will stand the test of time, and I believe he's right. I think it's one that Elton dusts off every time he goes out on the road. The music for this was written in part by, Elton and Davy Johnstone, of course lyrics by Bernie Taupin. And is often blended with another song from this period that I absolutely think is wonderful as well, and that's Blue Eyes. But this number was also one of my mother's favourites. I saw Elton John in concert in the 1980s, I think it was 1989, the Coke years, and he was absolutely fabulous, I have to say. We had absolute shit seats for it, but he was the performance was wonderful. Number 6 is Goodbye Yellow Brick Road from 1973. This is a number that's been described as cinematic by Bernie Taupin. You know, the lyrics refer to his childhood in Lincolnshire, growing up on a farm, and he expresses a desire to get back to his roots and those sausages. This is a theme that is fairly recurring in Bernie Taupin's lyrics. I think this idea of getting back to where you come from. He actually said in 2014, the lyrics to the title track do say, "I want to leave Oz and get back to the farm." I think that's still my MO these days, he said. And I sympathise with that. A day in the city, oh what a pity, I could be in Berkshire where the poppies are so pretty. In my case, Berkshire, Lincolnshire in his case, of course. An arresting and stunning number described by one critic as beautiful and delicate. In fact, I think Billboard went on to say that it was the song's sonic impression is so strong and haunting, and that blending of voices and strings on the bridges is just so beautiful. Goodbye Yellow Brick Road alludes to The Wizard of Oz, but I think it's almost an extended metaphor for all the fame and the attendant fuss and fluff, and the narrator's desire to leave it all behind. But the number and its iconography is very much reminiscent of Elton's heyday. And yes, I still remember that performance on The Muppet Show. Number 5 is Border Song from 1970. Elton John has said that this is a song about alienation. It's a spiritual, punctuated by the wonderful phrase, Holy Moses. Of course, when Aretha Franklin covered this in 1972 on her Young, Gifted and Black album, she put the Holy Moses bit as a parenthesis, but firmly in the title. It's the usual formula here: lyrics by Bernie Taupin, music by Elton John. Taupin apparently wrote the song about the mixing with the crowds in London with people that just ain't my kind. And John deviates from that theme for the last verse, which I think he actually wrote, and focuses on bigotry. In fact, the lines are, "Holy Moses, let us live in peace, let us strive to find a way to make all hatred cease. There's a man over there, what's his colour, I don't care, he's my brother, let's live in peace." There seems to be a recurring theme often in the lyrics of Bernie Taupin, which deals with isolation, alienation and loneliness. And Elton John's beautiful reading of a lyric and interpretation through music, they just seem to be a perfect match. Number 4 is Rocket Man from 1972. This was the lead single off the Honky Chateau album, if I'm not mistaken. Now, of course, it was recorded at the Chateau de Reville in France, where Pink Floyd had recorded. Had they recorded, or were they going to record? I don't know who was first, Elton John or Pink Floyd. I can't remember. But Jethro Tull, of course, would record there in 1973 for those ill-fated Chateau disaster tapes. And, of course, Cat Stevens, I think, records a little bit later on. I apologise if I've got my dates wrong. I'm just pulling this from the top of my head. And of course this was covered fantastically by Kate Bush, a beguiling, haunting number, as all her music is really. But this song was inspired by a short story called Rocket Man, The Rocket Man, from The Illustrated Man by Ray Bradbury. Or maybe it was inspired by the psychedelic folk of Pearls Before Swine. If you listen to the Pearls Before Swine song Rocket Man, which was also inspired by the Ray Bradbury story, by the way, the singer sounds uncannily like Bert Summer. Anyway, I don't want to talk too much about the themes of this song, alienation and loneliness. I've done a classic song review on Rocket Man many years ago, actually. It's quite an old video, but I'll stick a card up there and you can check that out anyway. Number 3 is Ballad of a Well-Known Gun from 1970. This comes from the Tumbleweed Connection album, which is my favourite Elton John album. It's wonderful, wonderful record. Taupin denies that this album is a tribute to Americana. In fact, he says it's a homage to music from the Big Pink by the band, an incredibly influential album at this time. Although he does go on to say that he's rather a fan of Americana and American Western, something I very much have in common with him, I guess. This is certainly a Western-themed, if not loose, concept album perhaps. I just love the atmosphere of these numbers and Elton John's transatlantic yawl. This album has been described by Bernie Taupin as the perfect marriage of rhythms and the written word. And to add to all the plaudits, Elton John himself has said this is one of their most perfect of albums. Dee Murray and Nigel Olsson appear for the first time together on this record. Nigel Olsson, of course, who was pinched from Uriah Heep, I believe. Actually, Olsson had played on Elton John's Empty Sky from 1969. Listen to my interview with Mick Box. He talks about Nigel Olsson in there. This song creates a western setting for much of the album, chronicling the tale of a fugitive who's finally caught. Now they've found me, at last they've found me, he said. And instead of being proud of his reputation, he seems to lament, I'm tired of hearing that there goes a well-known gun. I wonder if it was inspired by the 1950s classic western, The Gunfighter with Gregory Peck. Who knows? Number 2 is High Flying Bird from 1973. My word, this is an anthemic number about someone who mistakes affection for control. Some of the lines in this, she thought I meant to harm, she thought I was the archer. And there are those that suggest the last verse of this song deals with suicide, perhaps the suicide of the subject of the song. The album, of course, which is a wonderful number, comes from his Don't Shoot Me, I'm Only the Piano Player. The story surrounding that, of course, is that Elton John was approached by Groucho Marx while he was playing. Groucho Marx made the symbol of a gun or something at him, and Elton famously said, don't shoot me, I'm just the piano player. That's a story that's very much attendant with this album, but let's face it, it's a damn good one. This album was a huge hit on both sides of the Atlantic. It also spawned the wonderful Daniel, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, also Crocodile Rock. Crocodile Rock was a tribute to 1950s rock and roll, even sung in the style of Bobby Vee. But this sublime number is supposed to be sung or presented in the style of Van Morrison, apparently. The way Elton John sings this song just gives me chills. It's remarkably beautiful. Number 1 is Tiny Dance from 1971, my favourite of all the Elton John numbers, used devastatingly in the film Almost Famous. And of course it appears on the album Madman Across the Water, which is getting the deluxe box set treatment, I believe, very, very soon. If I had the money, I would dash out and buy it because it looks fabulous. Bernie Taupin told Rolling Stone magazine that this song was inspired by California. California, Here I Come, sang Joni Mitchell. And it certainly captures the spirit of the time, I think, where perhaps a lot of the women they saw on Sunset Strip. Nevertheless, the song is actually written for his first wife, Maxine Feibelman, not sure how it's supposed to be pronounced, who was indeed the seamstress of the band. The credits for the song, of course, this song features on the Madman Across the Water album, features With Love to Maxine at the end, so she's immortalised. Tiny Dancer, what a number. So there you have it, that's my 10 favourite Elton John songs. For those of you who are scratching your heads and saying, well, where was Candle in the Wind? I love the simile, like a candle in the wind, to suggest a very transient but bright life, I guess, but something very fragile. But nevertheless, it's one I've just heard too many times, and for now, whenever I hear it, I can't help but think of the words to the Princess Diana song, which I just don't want to listen to it anymore. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, this trek down the yellow brick road, looking at the 10 best songs of Elton John. And I hope you will subscribe and check that bell and do all that sort of stuff. But other than that, I will leave you with my closing salvo, which is always in the hope that you will stay well, healthy, but more importantly, that you keep listening.